this approach that I created actually teaches people to look at problems a lot more like a pile of knots and to ask, well, what's the first one we need to untie in order to get some momentum?
Mm,
Think about it like untying your necklace. It's like you can't just pull on the whole thing.
yeah.
Like you go, all right, where's the first one? But if people can do that together in conversation, they can open that. And I've always found the learning to untying the knot always leads you to discover the next one.
This episode is brought to you by Lumina Growth Lab. At Lumina, we help professional learning and development companies who are struggling with predictable lead flow, a sniper approach to attracting the ideal clients, and a system that qualifies leads so they can have a smoother sales process, finally have scalability, and ultimately take their business to the next level. Most of the time, our clients come to us frustrated because nothing seems to work outside of word of mouth and referral based lead generation. But with the right strategy and support, they're able to confidently add new channels of lead generation, leading to a packed pipeline that creates sustainable revenue and year over year growth for cheaper than ever before because of the use of AI technologies. If that sounds like you or someone you know, connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'd be happy to have a conversation with you about unlocking your business's potential. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Welcome to the Marketing Matrix. I'm your host, Lisanne Murphy, and today I am joined by the wonderful and talented Dianna Anderson. Sorry, Dianna Anderson. Dianna, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Well, listen, thanks so much for having me.
Guys, I am so excited for this conversation. When I met Dianna, I felt like I had stepped into a room of a legend, and I'm just so excited to dive into everything that she's done in her work and what she's passionate about because she's the real deal, guys. So let me take a moment to introduce her a little bit more formally, and then we'll jump into the conversation. So let me take a moment to introduce this woman more formally. As co-founder and CEO of Cilliant, Dianna Anderson created a process called Untying the Knot that makes navigating hard conversations surprisingly simple. Untying the Knot has helped over 55,000 people spark the insights needed to unravel everyday challenges and energize people to take action. At scale, it becomes a common language that works for everyone, from frontline employees to C suite leaders, because it's built on a metaphor anyone can grasp and apply immediately. Recognized by Forbes as a pioneer in establishing coaching cultures, Dianna is a founding member of the International Coaching Federation and co author of the first textbook on the ROI of coaching. She held the Master Certified Coach credential for almost 2 decades. Dianna's current focus is supporting people to collectively solve complex challenges through insightful conversations that evolve human potential. All right, so if that doesn't make you excited for this conversation, then I don't know what will. I am so excited to get going. Dianna, thank you again for coming on the show today.
It was such a pleasure, Lisa, and I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Me too. Okay, so for people that are not familiar with your legendary status, I would love to just go back a little bit. Even not just like your professional background, but like what made you so interested in human transformation and having adequate conversations? Like, can you think of like back to a moment that like really just turned you on to like human development, personal development? Like what was that time?
Well, I'd have to say it was my absolute inability growing up to have the conversations I needed to have to connect with people, to resolve things. I just didn't know how to do it. I would just like leave, like I would just exit. And it got to a point in my life where I couldn't walk away. I mean, I was married, I had kids, and it was in that moment, like coaching showed up in my life. The deep dive it took to learn how to become a coach just completely rewired who I was. And my ability then to step into conversations and have them in an appreciative way transformed my life. And I knew that I wanted to give that gift to anyone that was open to receiving.
I love that. I'm really curious because thinking back to like that time where like you would just like exit stage left if like there was like a conflict or whatever, like when you had the awareness that like there was another way and there was a way to actually like step into these conversations and have tough conversations, what was that like for you? Like, was it terrifying? Was it, like, exciting? Was it like you'd cracked a secret code? Like, what was that moment like for you?
Mm, that's a great question. It felt a little bit like almost like coming home because I was blessed. My very, very first coach was Cheryl Richardson, who went on to be very, very famous, writing multiple books about just how to have conversations, how to live a fuller life. She was the person who taught me, and she was such a beautiful teacher that I just felt held and I felt like I blossomed and I felt like the world sort of opened in a way that it had never opened before. And it became less scary because I didn't have to run from it. I could engage it. And it sort of felt like coming home. Like
I love that.
I can be me. And yeah. And I don't think there's anything more precious, which is why I'm so passionate about this work. I'm like, folks, if you can talk about, you can't change something if you can't talk about it. You can't make your life better. You can't get things done unless you can have a conversation. And so many of the ways that we teach people to have conversations is quite like, frankly, scary. It's like, oh, they're going to be difficult. They're going to be hard. They're going to be conflict. I'm like, it doesn't have to be like that. It actually, I don't know, conversations can be really beautiful connections if you are willing to hold them as such. And that's, I guess, my mission in life is
I love that.
to get people to hold conversation as a gift that opens them up and other people up and possibilities for and shared possibilities up for all of us.
I love it. So beautiful. And I wanna talk about more about conversations in just a minute, but I have one more bridge question that came to mind, and that is, I would love to know the space between your own coaching experience versus when you became a coach. Like, how long was that space between, like, you feeling the impact of coaching that it had in your life and then you making a decision of, like, "I wanna coach too," or, like, was it, like, pretty immediate?
No, they were conjoined. Was
Okay.
yeah, like, literally, I was sort of in this challenge, and well, the history of it is I had a background in large scale change management and had to travel all the time, got off the road, was looking I had, like, got married, had a child, and I was looking for what was next in my life, and that's when I opened this newspaper and read the very first story about coaching and the profession of coaching as we now know it today. And I believe it was probably the first article, if not the first, one of the first ever written about it. And I went, oh, that sounds so exciting. And that looks neat. Looks like kind of what I would enjoy doing. And so I signed up to become a coach. And the first thing signed up for coaching, the workshop, like to learn how to do it. You couldn't get certified back then. But the first thing you're supposed to do then is get your own coach. So I had a coach while I was learning to be a coach. And so it was that together, I kind of took a deep dive into
Interesting.
both me and the profession, as such
And
as it was
and
in that moment.
I love it. And how was the evolution to, like, where, like, you wanted to stick your flag in the sand for, like, conversation? Like, did you waffle around, like, a few different subjects? Like, how did you land on, like, this being, like, the thing that you're passionate about?
Well, what happened, I started coaching and took individual clients. And what I found was they all seem to have the same problem, like each in their own unique way. But what was happening was how these leaders were choosing to lead, their beliefs about leadership and what it meant to be a good and effective leader was really becoming further and further out of alignment with the environment they were operating in. And so with coaching, what I was always doing was basically just teaching them how to have the kinds of conversations they needed to have to sort of be able to bring things back in alignment, which meant handle both the tactical side of change and the human side together. And after doing this for 10 decades, I'm like, oh my gosh, everybody needs these skills. These are just basic. So I thought there's got to be a way to scale this. Like there's got to be a way instead of me just doing one person at a time to have hundreds or thousands of people learn how to have these kinds of conversations. I'm teaching people individually to have. And that's what inspired me to create my Untying the Knot approach to coaching, which we offer through our Coaching in the Moment workshop right now. So it was my desire to scale what I was teaching people in coaching that really put me into that space.
I love that. Okay, so let's talk about conversation for just a moment because Like you, I'm also super passionate about this. Like, so things like communication and relationship. And there's no training for it unless you hire
Yeah.
a coach, really. So why is this something that you're passionate about? Like in terms of conversation and the power that it has to unlock doors for people and relationships?
That we are in a really pivotal time of change right now on our planet. I mean, you can feel just things shifting in so many different directions. And I think we're really having a shift of world view, if you will. Like, I think in many ways we're kind of driven by the worldview of the last century. Which was very often very mechanistic, very much about control. And I feel like we're moving into a space where human creativity is absolutely essential. I mean, and I know this is a lot of things going on here, but as I look at the rise of AI, I also see that what needs to rise with it is human creativity to have a really powerful, thoughtful partnership. So, it doesn't matter where you look, these kinds of changes that are evolving, our thinking and our being are happening, and we are not equipped to have them. Like, when we try to use these old world approaches to conversation to solve these new world problems, we end up spinning in frustration. And I would like to slow that spin and help people really begin to be able to win in a new way. And the only way to do that is to have better conversations.
Mm, I love that. And I love how you break it down so simply that like really like the human component that needs to remain and be developed at the same time is creativity in order to maximize the AI tsunami that we're being tackled with.
Yeah, and it's present in everything. I mean, if you think about it, pretty much every major issue that we're focused on right now is what I would call complex, which means the definition of complexity is there's so many inputs that it is impossible to predict what the output's going to be. So a lot of our linear logical models just fail in that space. But what we need, so untying the knot, this approach that I created, actually teaches people to look at problems a lot more like a pile of knots and to ask, well, what's the first one we need to untie in order to get some momentum? Think about it like untying your necklace. It's like you can't just pull on the whole thing. Like you go, all right, where's the first one, right? But if people can do that together in conversation, they can open that. And I've always found the learning to untying the knot always leads you to discover the next one. So it doesn't matter what kinds of challenges we are facing. The ones that are moving the needles, the ones that people care about are complex, and untying the knot in the conversations that it facilitates allows us to untie these things in a orderly fashion, if you will.
I love that. What do you feel are like do you have specific elements or like a framework that like really categorizes like what people are missing in terms of like an inability to converse well?
Well, the way we would frame it, yeah, how would I put this simply? With untying the knot, so it is both a framework and a process. So while it gets you to untie the knots, there's only three kinds of knots that we work with. So there's things people do not see, things that people are not aware of. So almost all of our most significant knots come from how we perceive situations and the limitations that that creates. So the first thing we've got to kind of do is find out, how are we disconnected in this space? There's also do not want knots, which are fears or concerns. So often when we're looking at moving forward in something, someone's fear or their concern, maybe they're afraid they're not going to be successful, or they're concerned that it's not going to turn out well for them or somebody else. So those fears or concerns will inhibit our ability to step in and having real authentic conversation. And the last one is do not know, which is these are skill based knots. And so often we just lack the skill to do the things we need to do, whether it's the skill to have the conversation or the skill to lead the project. And so typically, when we move into conversation, the disconnect is going to happen in one of these spaces. And if we can have, in our old ways of thinking, we usually say, well, who's wrong? Who's right? And, how do I, who's, how do I prove that? But if you look through this lens, it's just a knot. It's no one's at fault. It's just, oh, we're not on the same page. Well, how do we get there? And so we use coaching based type approaches to explore and try to find common ground. And if someone's afraid, we think about, well, what would we need to do to help them be less frightened? Or if someone lacks a skill, how can they learn it? So it turns conversation into something actionable. And that's how you create momentum. Sorry, that was a very long answer to your.
Loved it. It was so good. It was very, very good. Is, are these skills, like, that you're talking about, like, um, have you found with your clients that, like, they're challenging to learn, or, like, are they actually, like, pretty straightforward that, like, once someone becomes aware of them, it's like, "Oh, like, yeah, okay, I can do this."
We find that people learn them very, very quickly. In fact, that was my goal when I set out to create Untying the Knot. What I wanted to do was create a coaching approach that anybody could use anywhere in the world in any conversation with anyone about anything. Took 5 years to figure this out.
I'm gonna say that's a tall order.
It's worked. It's gone around the world. It's been used in many, many different languages, many, many different settings. I have used it with CEOs and their teams and had transformational learning experiences. And in the same company, we've pulled people off of a line that have not been taught anything and did no training for 20 years, and they got it. So it works in all these settings, but it always meets the people where they're so anyone can learn it, anyone can apply it. The trick is continuing to support people after they learn. And so one of the things I love is when groups of people learn together and then challenge themselves to really use this as a shared language, which then really embeds it in their DNA as part of who they are. And that's when it really unleashes its greatest potential, I think.
I love that. So, and with your coaching, do you feel like you're still like yeah, you talked about like it was 5 years, like, to develop this system that could just work so universally. Are you still figuring out pieces, or are we more in like like, this is it, it's what it is, like, let's just push hard and get it out there?
Well, it's very interesting you should ask that because I actually am in a moment of complete sort of not complete, but a lot of reframe, and I'm excited about it, really. To be honest, for many, many years, because of my background in change, I always knew that untying the knot was really a language of change, that it was what facilitated the human side of change. But for a long time, when I tried to share that with people, they they just couldn't understand. So I just finally narrowed it down and just said it's in the moment coaching. That's just what it like that's and everyone's like, "Great, I get that." And so now what I've done is actually taken the content. I think that coaching is well enough established as a thing that we can now expand it into the whole umbrella of this human side of change management. So I'm actually recasting some of the content because there's other pieces to it. We're now adding partnership conversations. So how do two peers use these kinds of approaches when they need to move some kind of change together and coaching doesn't feel appropriate? Or also, we've always had feedback in the moment, but I'm recasting it a little bit for this moment in time. And then I'm looking at also creating how you untie the knot in change management. So, how people collectively can use untying the knot as a shared language. So, I'm aligning the whole untying the knot learning path, and we'll have that available in 2026. So, I'm super excited for it.
That's awesome. That's really, really exciting. And it seems like, I mean, it really goes back to how you were talking about it's once you untie that first knot that leads you to the next knot, right? And so it seems like that's exactly what's been happening with the evolution of this process for you, right? Is like the next logical knot is this right here.
Yeah, trust me, I and you have to wrestle with these knots, and I have been wrestling, so it's always fun when you go, "That's what we're going to do." So, yes, everything I teach, I have lived, including living it in my company, so it's the real deal.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love it. So, and what have been like some of the transformations that you've witnessed in the organizations that you've worked with by applying this method? Like, what have been? Do you have like a particular case study or something? And you don't have to share names, but like just as an effect that the frameworks have had on an organization. or an individual?
Gosh, let's see. I think one of my favorites was a team, a leadership team that really dove into learning how to untie the knot. And I got to work with them directly for a while. And what they were doing eventually was taking on challenges that they were afraid to take on before. They were kind of like, those sacred things that they just wouldn't get near because they honestly didn't know if they could rely on each other, and they didn't wanna open that up unless they could, and when they learned untying the knot, it built so much trust within the team that they started to take these things on, and they were starting to get traction with it, and they were excited because finally they were really able to tap into the full strength and capability of the team and bring it to address something they couldn't do before. So I love that. I've also had organizations that wired it up as a culture, and I don't always get to be there present, but I heard stories coming back out of leaders who had learned this. And this was an organization that had to go through a lot of change. And the leaders could stand up in front of, hundreds of people who'd gone through this training and say, folks, we still have some knots. There's some knots we're still untying as we're leaning into changing ourselves. And instead of feeling defeating or like, someone was to blame, it kind of unified people around, yeah, and we can talk about it. And we're together in doing this. So
Mm,
it excites me when that language unifies people to focus on creating really meaningful change.
yeah. Well, what I love, and you brought this up in the beginning as well, is like by um putting it in, like everyone can always, like, when as soon as you say knot, people have like a mental picture of like a knot, right? And by putting it in a knot, like you say, like it removes it from blame or victim or responsibility. It turns it into something to observe and investigate and discover instead of personality trait or something to own, right?
Yes.
So it's so brilliant. It's so cool. I love
Thank
it.
you. Thanks. Well, here's the other cool thing that people sometimes don't notice is because it's a metaphor and because it's a physical thing, it also opens up the creative side of your brain, which is where the possibilities live and lie. And so when you're using something that has already initiated that side of the brain, and then you get other people to be able to play, you're unlocking the creative potential of that human brain. And that is our most untapped resource on the planet
Mm,
is human creativity because our old models shut it down. But there's nothing we need more right now than for people individually and collectively to be able to create together because we're facing so many challenges we've never seen before.
that's so good.
And we don't have a history of the answers. We must create them. So anything that can open up that thinking is going to unleash that power and bring it into play.
I love that. I think what's also really remarkable is, like, I can only imagine that your focus has been on corporations, right, and leadership. But I would imagine that these skills that people are learning are going way beyond the workplace, right?
But yeah.
That it's being disseminated just by nature to their relationships outside of work in the home and so on and so forth. So wonderful. Okay, so talk to me a little bit about the business structure that supports this. Like you typically work with organizations do you typically work with like the leadership level and then management teams, or like how does it typically work when you work with an organization?
Really, it's unique to that organization. I have a team of people that delivers our workshops, or we do train the trainer. So sometimes organizations have their own set of trainers and they want to really craft how they're going to bring it into the organization. Everybody does it a little bit differently. And I'm really happy to work with organizations to figure out what's going to work best for them. And I do like Damon Santola has some really fantastic research he did on how you actually get human behavior change to scale. And so I encourage organizations to kind of use that science backed thinking, which basically says human behavior change is one of the scariest things you can ask a human being to do. And so we have to think for that. We've got to think about how are we going to make it safe for people to change. And so that's the conversation I like to have with organizations, like what's going to make it safest for people. And often that's not starting at the top. Often it's starting with your more influential leaders, kind of mid to higher level, and getting them to really embrace and see the value of this, but also getting them to do it collectively in groups. So sometimes what I'll say is have us pilot coaching in the moment in your organization. See whose eyes light up and they go, yeah, this is exciting. And then work with them and take it into their division and maybe, have an entire division learn how to do this. Capture the stories of the things they're doing that are making a difference and share those stories with others to see where else you want to go next. And once you've got that foundation of some proven outcomes, then it makes it safe for the rest of the organization and ultimately the more senior leaders in the organization to fully embrace this new way of thinking and being. So
Interesting.
how people do that is up to them,
Yeah.
but I enjoy being a thinking partner with organizations to
Yeah,
find out how to
on
do that.
how it can happen. I love that. So, like, are you positioning yourself as, like, change management and then Untie the Knot is, like, your vehicle for change management? Or is it more like retention or team dynamics or conflict management? Like, how do you position yourself with
Yeah,
in the
well,
org
we come through training and usually we come through learning and development, and often they will see us in the space of either in the moment coaching if they're still kind of looking for a model. Increasingly, I would like people to see us as a shared language that facilitates change management. And that's sort of with the transition of the work I'm doing, I'm hoping that that door opens because I think that's where the power of this language really, really sits.
Yeah, no, I love it. I think that's amazing. Totally makes sense. And 2026 is right around the corner. You mentioned it a couple times. Do you have like a is so you mentioned that like you're kind of shifting like the language and how you're talking about it in 2026. Anything else that you're looking forward to next year in terms of the business?
Well, I am working on a book. I'm not sure it's going to make it to the world in 2026. It's well underway, but it's a process to give birth to a new book in the world. So
Yeah,
maybe 2026 or maybe early 2027. And it is capturing some of what we're talking about today and really talking about how applying these ideas in the world, I think, can help set us on very different and better path. So
I love it.
something. Thanks.
So good. I'm so excited for you. Well, it has seriously been so great having you today and being a part of the conversation and for sharing. Like I always love talking with coaches like you and change makers like you because like you break down these seemingly complicated topics and you're just like, no, like it really comes down to like just these categories and these things and you make it you make the elephant that we're asked to eat very manageable, right? Like one bite at a time. And so, yeah, it's been a pleasure having you today on the marketing matrix.
Well, listen, I've enjoyed our conversation so much. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I'm sure there are like so many more things that we could dive into on a much deeper level. So, for people to follow you, find out more what you're doing, understand more about in the moment coaching and untying the knot, where can people find you?
Right now, the best thing would be with our website at Cilliant.com or connect with me on LinkedIn and notice that I have a unique spelling for Diana. And yes, like tune in now because in 2026, there's going to be more stuff coming out. I'm going to have more things to offer you. Right now, a lot of things incubating. So connect now, excuse me, and we'll be able to kind of continue that conversation into next year.
I love it. Well, I'm really excited personally for the content that you have coming out, and I hope that you guys, if you're listening, that you'll take a look at it because this is really important work for whether it's for any organization. I keep thinking about like how universal it is, right? It's not just for like yeah, like this fits for this industry and this niche. Like it is. This is a global need in terms of being able to untie the knots in our lives. So I'm really excited for everything that's coming for you in 2026.
Thanks, Lisanne. I appreciate it.
All right, guys. So wherever you are listening, your car, Costco, your kit, or your kitchen, thank you so much for your time. And no, we know that your time is valuable. So for you to spend moments with us absolutely means the world. So until next time on the Marketing Matrix.